What's going on, guys? Today is hopefully going to be a huge day for the RSX as we're going to pull out the transmission. Disclosure, I do not know what I'm doing, have never done this before, so if you're watching this as a how-to, hopefully you get something out of it, but I might not be doing it right. Be sure to check your helm's manual and, maybe consult with someone who does know what they're doing, but I wanted to document the process, and hey, maybe if it helps one of you guys, then that's great too. So let's get right to it. So I actually took out the air filter and the battery to get a little bit more access in here. So there's a bunch of stuff that you want to disconnect before you drop the transmission. The first thing is the cables and the cable bracket. Those are 3 bolts. And then you have some electrical plugs. So you have plug 1, plug 2 back here, which I haven't actually gotten out yet. I need to do that. Third one is right here, and it plugs in, so that's loose as well. And then you're also going to want to disconnect the 2 bolts that hold the slave cylinder. Bolts up in here, so it's a little bit tough to get at. But an extension and ratchet should do it. And I think you can get a gun on there if you have to as well. So that is pretty much it. I know the manual also says that there's a couple things in this area here that you want to disconnect, so I did all that. I don't know if it's actually gonna need to be disconnected. I might have done that without really needing to, but I'd rather be safe than sorry with dropping the transmission. Don't want to snag any plugs or anything like that. So a trick that I like to use is this dandelion picker. Sometimes if the plugs don't want to separate, you can kind of get it under there and help the plug along, so I'm going to go for that. So just got this last plug out here, and that should be everything. I'm going to give it one last look over up top here before I go down below, drain the fluid, and try and get these axles out. So it's actually a good thing I checked with the manual because your boy forgot to disconnect the transmission ground. So the transmission ground is this guy here, right there. Need to get that off, as well as a few other things I'm sure that I missed. So always careful, double check your work, guys, really important. Don't just send it. This thing's rusty. Rusty nut, dude. There she is. So now that we've got our nut for our ground loose, we can just slide it right off, and we're all set with that one. Remember, guys, organization is key, especially on bigger jobs like this, so make sure that you label your hardware. You'll be in a lot better shape when you go to put things back together, for sure. Alright guys, got my drain pan. Next step is going to be to drain the transmission, get these axles out, and hopefully we don't get wet when we pull it up. So, according to the manual, this guy right here is going to be our drain plug, so I'm going to give that one a turn, and hopefully some fluid comes out of there. Almost. The drain plug got a little wet. Fell in the pool. Whoops. Alright, so now it looks like the last of the fluid is on its way out. And we'll put the drain plug back in so that we don't lose it. And we're good to keep going. So in this car, I'm actually upgrading to the Insane Shafts axles, the 500 horsepower axles. The car will make nowhere near that when it's tuned. But I'd rather be safe than sorry, doing all this work anyway, might as well put new axles in. So I went with an axle removal strategy to get this transmission out. It is an older car with a lot of miles, so it might be kind of jammed. I haven't done this before, like I said at the beginning of the video, so hopefully all goes well and these axles pop right out for us. So removing the axle really wasn't bad at all, guys. Really, what I did was I just took a pry bar, a nice Harbor Freight pry bar, and this is where it meets the transmission, and I just kind of got it in there. There's a little bit, like maybe an 1/8 inch space, and gave it a pull, and it popped right out. So we'll just keep moving. So we're here on the other side. My goal is going to be to set this pry bar in here and hopefully get it out with a hammer. So this is the second drive shaft here. Goes, hard to explain, but goes up into here, then connects to this next part, which is the intermediate shaft, which will come out after. But first step is going to be to separate the drive shaft from the intermediate shaft. So the passenger side axle is very stubborn. It won't release from the input shaft right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to input shaft. Is it the input shaft? Intermediate shaft? I don't know what the shaft is. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate the whole unit. So I'll bring it back onto the car here. So basically this won't separate here. I don't know if I'm just not strong enough or if it's really seized in or what, but I am replacing this half shaft anyway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unbolt this housing here get it loose. This should come out a little easier than this. Let's do it. So now that we got both axles out, the next step is going to be to drop the subframe down so that we have room to clear when we drop the transmission out. So we're going to start in the back of the subframe here. There's one bolt up front and then two up in here that need to come out. So we're going to do those, and then we're going to do the one up front, which is right in there. Those are the two mount points, and then we should be able to do the four corners. 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I think that's it. It should drop after that. So rear mount first. So I got to admit, it is a little tough to film the subframe stuff, guys, but we did have our first casualty of the night. This guy here goes through the front mount on the subframe, and when I went to loosen the bolt, it took the whole nut off with it. So this nut is usually welded right into the subframe itself, and now it is not. So I'm gonna have to probably take the subframe somewhere to have it welded, or look into a new one entirely. So that's a little bit of a bummer, but I'm gonna keep going and hopefully get this thing done. Alright guys, so we got a jack in the rear and a jack up front, so we are ready to start working on the 4 bolts, and then we should be able to drop the whole subframe down. Alright guys, so all 4 subframe bolts are out. I should mention that it was absolutely ridiculous to get them out. I had to use a cheater bar, and it honestly felt like it was cross-threading on the way out, so I was a little upset, honestly. I thought that the bolts were cross-threaded and that I was going to kind of be in a really tough spot, but thank God I just kept turning, the bolts came out, eventually got looser, and all 4 actually felt the same way. So if you guys are doing this at home and those bolts feel like they're not really like snapping out, they're kind of hard to turn and then they start loosening up, it's probably what happened to me, which means you might be good, so keep spinning. So, we didn't get the trans out today, but we did get the subframe out, which is awesome. Just one little mishap here. This here is the bracket where that nut piece kind of snapped, so I may have that welded back on. Most likely will. Actually, it looks okay. Maybe that's how it's supposed to be. Who knows? I'll have to do some further investigations on there, because that might be perfectly fine, actually. Well, that's interesting. I don't know if that's even as broken as I thought it was, but anyway guys, thank you so much if you got to this point in the video. I seriously appreciate it. I will be coming back with an episode 2 when we get the transmission on out of here, and I'm gonna go take a shower and go to sleep. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.